and to a close. So one thing I want to go back and make sure to review that I did not and probably should have is in our last session when we talked about the performance task and we looked at the performance task samples, when we gave you this template, remember the template was designed to be smarter balanced like. So that as you're creating performance tasks, if you have at least some consistent components to what the smarter balance would be, the kids would be more comfortable with maybe how that process is brought forward. But in the conversations I was having as I was going around is you do not have to fill every spot for every performance task. That's just a template to guide you. You're going to create your performance task however you end up creating it. That's just a template that mirrors the way they design the smarter balance performance tasks. So you don't have to fill all those places. So we just got in a conversation here around teacher directions. Teacher directions didn't seem necessary. So fine, no problem. You don't have to have that. And then the whole part 1 and part 2 business. You may not have a part 1 and a part 2. But do understand that's the process the kids will go through when they are doing performance tests. There will be part 1 and part 2 to them. And we wanted you to be familiar with that, which we know you are, but then give you the template to replicate that. All right. Any questions about that? Okay. So we're going to have you share out something either from where you're moving with the item that we're just working on, or just something about assessment in general that's now come to light from your conversation. So we're going to start here and just work our way around. So thanks. And a little bit of a different setup. You actually can just talk to the mic.
So we were working on a prompt that asked the students we read Flowers for Algernon, and then they're going to read a piece on neuroethics. And then we're asking them to prepare and participate in a debate on the impact and whether it's okay to use, science and technology to alter brain functioning. And then they would have to pick 3 different pieces to research and use and prepare to use in their debate. So we are moving toward looking at creating a rubric for that performance task.
And is that a text then? The flowers text is one that you're working on with them in class?
Yes.
And so then you would supplement the others and move forward? Okay, great. Thanks. How about this too?
We were taking a look at an assessment that I'm working on that covers NBT 5.2, which is basically add, subtract, and multiply decimals. So in that, there is a chart that they have to complete, calculating annual income, finding out the difference between what one person makes, and it all is based on level of education also. The performance task towards the end, and there's comparisons they need to make, but the performance task towards the end is for them to write a letter to a student explaining the financial benefits of an education using mathematical terms. Our roadblocks in this, though, are like providing some sort of a rubric. How will it be graded? Things along those lines. But it's just still a work in progress that we're looking at.
Great. Well, and that's what this is all about. So great. Thank you for sharing.
I struggle to find one as I teach kindergarten, and we don't really do a lot of what we're learning about, but I just chose one where the kids have to use Play-Doh to make 3D shapes. That's kind of the biggest performance they do in my class, in math at least. So, but again, the rubric part of it, if I look at one kid's sphere and cube and cone, they all kind of look the same, just like mounds of Play-Doh. So kind of trying to come up with how tough are we really on the kids. So.
Sure. And might it be that even though it's not articulated in the design, it's their word choice and the fact that they're able to identify whether or not.
About it when they're done.
Exactly.
We thought that we could give them a point for not eating me.
Oh, very nice. Very nice. Well, that'd be no fair. How would they get points? And I have some ideas. I know you're focused on math a little bit, but for ELA. So there are some places where there are some kindergarten sample performance tests. So anyway, we'll have that conversation later.
Allison's going to get mad at
Yeah, well, that's okay. We'll never strike that from the swivel. All right. Thank you.
We were looking at chemical and physical properties and having them, there's a lab that we kind of already do, but we could make it more of an assessment where they have to determine or identify the physical properties and then also go through and
test those substances with water, vinegar, and heat. So that would be the analyzing the reaction that occurs. So we still need to come up with some sort of rubric, and I think that's it.
Well, we talked a little bit about that, and I think that's like makes the lab into an assessment, right? So, and I know kids like to do labs, but then they wouldn't even think of it as an assessment, but yet you'd be gleaning a lot of information from it. So, yeah, thank you.
We were working on fourth grade fractions, and kids are going to wrap a present, and they each have a different amount of ribbon, and when they add their amounts of ribbon up, do they have enough to wrap the present? So they're adding fractions. We felt it met the targets well. We also felt this performance task was appropriate for fourth grade. And the question we had was, in the different tasks that the students will do, we felt that there was a different DOK level for the different tasks they do. We were wondering if that was okay, and they said yes. Well, then we were trying to go from a level 2 to a level 3 and how we could bump that up a level.
And so you're suggesting that in answering the question, different depths of knowledge are in play for kids to answer that question.
Yes.
Right. Absolutely. And I think that's probably, and it sounds like you already had the conversation, but I think that's kind of the uniqueness of the performance task, is that it is kids working at the different depths of knowledge around the same content. So I think that's kind of part of what's going on, right? So we get to that application, that real world, like kids actually doing things that have purpose. And so I think that's a great piece. So great. All right, thank you. Great start to the morning here. And again, so as we have on here, you do have the peer review items for consideration. And technical difficulty. Oh, I meant to turn it off. Oh, it's not wanting to. I've lost contact. It's not worth. It's not.